But if you want some ideas of where to start looking, once you figure out the needs and once you figure out the wants, here are some names of jobs and typically what they do. This can be a good starting point for you. So network technician administrator, usually working with physical network infrastructure, setting up routers, servers, those types of things. One of the things before I get to the second one, in the hardware side, for the most part, IT support is kind of a hardware software mixture. But if you're especially working with hardware, most of the jobs are on location. They can be remote for majority of it, but there is a physical location somewhere that you are attached to. And that physical location, and I've met these people, it might be literally on the other side of the world. When you get to a certain level, obviously you have to be very, very high up in the company, but you might have in charge of certain areas that are literally like in Europe and you live in the United States. So it's remote most of the time, or at least you're at another hardware facility somewhere else, but you're still responsible for the ones in Europe. And if something hits the fan, you got to go. If you're looking for like fully remote work, hardware is not the best place to get into it. Although eventually when you get up there, a lot of times higher and higher you go, they're a lot more lenient with where you can live. You just have to travel a lot more. One of the things that I did want to say about this, sorry, I didn't have this on my list or anything like that. I was just thinking about the top of my head. I was having dinner with a few guys that were in this space, and specifically they set up very specialized data centers, and they were all hardware guys, procurement. They all work in big companies. One of the things that was interesting to me, and I was talking to them, they found out about what I did. They were interested, I suppose. And I asked them, what are they doing as far as for the entry-level roles? Where are they spending a lot of their recruitment effort? Where do you think they're spending a lot of their recruitment effort? High schools. That's exactly right. It was immediate. There was 3 tiers of people. It was the lowest guy, and then the middle guy, and then the highest guy. And then I was talking to the highest guy. I was talking to him about the recruitment effort and where he sees things. And he's worked for companies that we would all know. And he said the best place that we're finding our entry-level talent for these hardware technician roles is in high schools.
And they're training them up.
And when they're good, the path to keep going, it totally breaks down for them. There are no walls. If you want to keep going, you can. Just come in, get your shot, do a good job, show that you're willing to learn. I wasn't surprised by that, but I did ask. I said, so why not colleges? And he said, well, colleges,
they want more money and they want to do less work.
Right, exactly. Somebody said, well, they're trying to pay you less.
That's the market value of the wage. It was the same before these kids went into college and when they went out. It's really, they just want to pay them what they're paying them right now.
We're talking about an 18-year-old versus a 22-year-old. And this 22-year-old has all these expectations because they put in all this, quote, hard work. Those are super massive air quotes there. They did all this hard work, right, that didn't matter because it wasn't experience in the job that they were trying to do. It wasn't experience in the field that they're trying to get into. And they expect the world, but they can't give the world because they can't give anything because they don't have any experience.
They worked at the grocery store and they're like, oh, wow, I have a cool new job, learning something.
Exactly.
They're excited to be there.
And then when they show promise, they really pour everything into them and they just move up. So what this director was saying was that the best people to continually move up are a lot of the degree-free people.
I was actually going to bring up the data centers because a while back, AWS did a massive push here and they removed a ton of degree requirements from their jobs. And one of the large areas where they did that was the data centers because they have training programs. So they'll train you to do that. That's one of those things that you wouldn't know. That's not going to be in a community college. They're not going to have that. They don't even really know that's there. They may know about it, but that's just not there. Like that's a good example of something that's too big for them to replicate to train. They just can't. A company can because they actually have the infrastructure to train. But not only that, another area that maybe you wouldn't think of as computer tech, but is another extremely big growing industry is the security and automation. They're usually attached to locksmiths or local security and alarm and fire alarm companies sometimes. And this could be for commercial and residential. And they do the PLC, which is the programmable logic controllers, which do home automations. Think of the things in gated communities where if you have an apartment complex, if you have a friend that has an apartment complex you have to key into and they have little fobs or whatever, that's a good example of a programmable logic controller. That little tag is one of those things, but you can use it for lots of different things like opening and closing doors and temperature control. And then that leads into Internet of Things, which is another computer hardware, but also software programming job that again, they're not teaching that in schools, but that's all your Wi-Fi connected stuff. That's thermostat, that's security, that's water heaters now sometimes, your fridge, your Roomba, all these different smart devices that are in your house now. That's another area where you're going to miss that at community college, but massive industry, extreme demand. And a lot of times those hire and train on the job entry-level techs. Same thing.
It's growing in the residential space for sure, but there's also a growing and big market in the commercial space as well.
Companies in manufacturing and delivery, supply chain, there's just so much there. And this is where thinking about just going, oh, there's this good program at this local community college for computer trade tech is going to maybe eliminate options that would have been a better fit for the things that he wants and the life goals he has, or possibly also even more just interesting to him.
So this is a exercise that I created. It's called Vocational Creativity. It's in the Degree Free Way, how to help your 16 to 20-year-old build the life they want. You don't have to buy the book to do it. You can if you want to, degreefree.co/book, but you can just sit down with a piece of paper and with your son, Crystal, think about all of the computer tech jobs that he can name. And if he can't name any of them, or if he doesn't know where to start, you can start with a product or service. And then what are the jobs that make that product or service possible? For a computer tech thing, let's talk about hardware for a second. Something that you can do that's really easy, or really simple rather, is the Wi-Fi router. So what are the jobs that are necessary to make that thing come to life? And you just go through, okay, well, there's the purchaser for the CAD software to make this thing. There's the manufacturers and the people on the line that are in the manufacturing plant actually making these things.
Prototype fabricators, CNC machinists, CNC programmers, and there's supply chain and logistics, and then